Volcanic eruptions can send plumes of ash and smoke high into the stratosphere and cause devastation to the surrounding country. Some eruptions have killed thousands and displaced many more, yet people continue to live near active volcanoes because the ash and lava enriches the soil. With some volcanoes remaining dormant for centuries or millennia, the danger becomes remote. But when a big volcano wakes up, it can have global consequences. Volcanoes occur along the boundaries of the Earth's tectonic plates, or at hotspots above upward currents or plumes in the Earth's mantle. On July 18, 1995, the Montserrat volcano in the Soufriere Hills became active for the first time in 350 years. Its effects were devastating on the Caribbean islands' economy, and experts warn it could erupt again at any time. Thousands of islanders abandoned homes, farms or hotels at the foot of the volcano. The capital, Plymouth, was buried by waves of gas and ash. 2 years later, another blast of superheated lava killed 19 people in an area that had been declared unsafe. This used to be a lush valley, 25 metres deep. Now it is a level sea of mud at the start of an exclusion zone. According to experts, there's no immediate end in sight. The lava dome is building steadily. Every few months, part of the dome will collapse, generating fast-moving flows of superheated gas and rock known as pyroclastic flows. In Africa, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, when Mount Nyiragongo erupted in 2005, hundreds died, and schools, hospitals, and thousands of homes were destroyed. With their town Goma in ruins, hundreds of thousands of people fled to take refuge in the border town of Gisenyi in neighbouring Rwanda. 6 months later, some businesses had reopened, and residents were trying to shovel away the lava to rebuild their houses. Researchers are trying to gain a better understanding of volcanoes to attempt more accurate predictions about their behaviour. The composition of molten lava and where it comes from has been the centre of debate among scientists for some years. They are trying to find out more about the Earth's internal dynamics and how it works. Geophysicists now have good evidence that plumes, the hot, narrow currents that well up in the layers between the Earth's crust and its core, originate at the core mantle boundary. This suggests there is one big convected system, like a pot of soup continuously boiling. Mount St. Helens is the most active volcano in America. It lies at the centre of a specially created park called the National Volcanic Monument. It's an area of great natural beauty, but it is closed intermittently when the volcano shows signs of activity. In 2006, the park reopened after rumblings had caused it to stay closed for almost 2 years. Hikers on the 5-hour climb to the crater's rim pass sensors monitoring the mountain's many earthquakes. They have to cross boulder fields from past eruptions and areas thick with ash. Frequent tremors cause rock slides, and the Forest Service advises caution, saying that there is always a degree of danger on active volcanoes. At 2,591 metres high, Mount St. Helens is a challenge that many serious hikers would like to undertake, and today the scene is tranquil. But in May 1980, Mount St. Helens erupted with such force that it levelled surrounding forests and killed 57 people. The north face of the mountain collapsed in a massive explosion. Nearly 600 square kilometres of forest was flattened or buried beneath volcanic ash, and a volcanic cloud rose thousands of metres into the sky. The eruption continued for 9 hours, but Mount St Helens and the surrounding landscape were dramatically changed within moments. 2 years later, the region was declared a special area for recreation and research, and the environment was left to recover naturally. Indonesia contains more active volcanoes than any other country. Among these, Mount Merapi is the most active. It is growing by 2 meters every day as ash and magma push up the crater. Merapi's last deadly eruption in 1994 expelled a cloud of searing gas that killed 60 people. And in 1930, about 1,300 people died during a major eruption. To monitor Merapi's behaviour and give early warning of another eruption, a team of volcanologists has set up a series of observation posts. In the main monitoring station at Babadan village on Merapi's lower slopes, 2 volcanologists send daily reports on smoke condition, wind and temperatures to the monitoring centre in the main city of Yogyakarta. Electronic distance measurement equipment is essential for the work. It is used to study how the volcano changes form before and after an eruption, and to measure pressure changes in magma pockets inside the volcano and near the crater. The 3,000-metre mountain in the heart of Java is part of the Ring of Fire, a series of volcanoes stretching from the Western Hemisphere through Japan and Southeast Asia to New Zealand. The central monitoring centre is in nearby Yogyakarta. It serves to coordinate all the current data from Mount Merapi. It receives the reports from the station at Babadan, as well as the output from an array of seismographs. The ground movements picked up by seismic sensors in place around the volcano are converted into radio signals that are transmitted to and recorded at the centre. Every day, the Merapi Watch Team decide whether to change the alert level. The volcano's increased activity has observation posts around it busier than usual. Their objective is to minimise the impact of an eruption and to evacuate the thousands of people who live on the slopes before a major eruption occurs. The Indonesian government is making certain it has the resources at hand to prevent the high numbers of fatalities that have happened in the past. Recently, the alert for Merapi was raised to the 2nd highest level, and authorities said there existed the possibility of an eruption any day, but they also want to avoid false alarms and the social and economic dislocations that come with them. Thousands of people live on the fertile flanks of the volcano, with villages as high as 1,700 metres above sea level. Evacuations will only be called when the volcano alert is at its highest level. The volcano has been spewing volcanic ash, and magma has fully covered its crater, but no one knows if and when it might erupt. In recent weeks, government officials have evacuated many villages from areas closest to Mount Merapi. Women, children and the elderly have been given evacuation priority. These villagers are relocated to temporary shelters in secure areas until it is safe for them to return home. However, at the Babadan village observation point, evacuation is not an option. When an eruption is imminent, the skills of the local observers are needed most. Everyone is keen to avoid the high human cost caused by past eruptions. Seismic activity beneath Japan's Mount Fuji has been increasing since 2005, when the monthly number of small tremors jumped to 35, compared with only 1 or 2 a month in previous years. Recently, towns at the foot of Mount Fuji conducted their first large-scale disaster drill for a possible eruption of the world-famous volcano. 15,000 people participated in the drill that was triggered by recent worries over these earthquakes, as well as increased volcanic activity throughout the Japanese Isles. Based on the scenario that the conical peak had erupted and spat out lava halfway up its northern side, residents practiced evacuating in orderly lines, while others brushed up their first aid skills. Volcanologists say the tremors do not mean an eruption is expected anytime soon, but that the famous volcano warrants careful watching. The disaster response exercise involved Japanese military assets and medical specialists, in addition to civil emergency teams. A large number of citizens volunteered to act as victims to help authorities refine critical medical evacuation techniques. Mount Fuji is just 150 kilometres west of Tokyo, Japan's sprawling capital of 13 million people. Activity under Fuji has reached a peak of 221 tremors a month, though these movements have not been perceptible to humans. 1,000 kilometres southwest, in the city of Shimabara, residents bowed their heads in prayer to mark the day in 1991 when Mount Unzen erupted, killing 43 people. A scalding stream of lava, gases and debris swept down the mountain to engulf the outskirts of this town, destroying everything in its path. Those that died were burned beyond recognition. Many blame the death toll on poor government disaster planning, though local residents admit they lacked a sense of danger because Unzen had been silent for nearly 2 centuries. Japan lies at the junction of at least 3 tectonic plates and is regularly rocked by tremors. The Shimabara tragedy shocked Japan into taking a much more serious approach to potential eruptions. When Mount Usu on Hokkaido and Mount Oyama on Miyakojima erupted, evacuations were carried out. Miyakojima was completely evacuated and not one life was lost in either eruption. At the base of Mount Pinatubo in the Philippines, about 100 Ayeta tribesmen were preparing to climb to the crater lake to undertake an important project. In the years since the volcano last erupted in 1991, its crater had filled with water, which was now within 5 meters of the rim. The group was heading to the crater lake in an attempt to dig a spillway to relieve building pressure, threatening 40,000 villagers living below. The brittle crater, composed of loosely packed volcanic rock and ash, could give way, unleashing a catastrophic mudslide. The workers said they were happy to undertake this dangerous task, not only to spare their homes from flooding, but to earn money in this economically deprived region. Water had been rising rapidly during the wet season, and geologists said that without the work, it could shatter the upper walls of the volcano. To reach the lowest part of the crater's rim, the group had to cross the lake with rubber boats. An advance party spent 3 days at the summit before being driven back by the monsoonal conditions. But this larger group was charged with staying until the job was done. Because of the rim's fragile nature, no explosives could be used. All work had to be carried out by hand for fear of triggering a large breach in the crater. However, a Swiss engineer working in the nearby town of Pampanga said there was a safer way to drain the crater lake. Rolf Bachmann submitted some proposals to the Philippine government to construct a siphon device to control the outflow of water from the crater. He maintained that damage to the crater's edge would be exacerbated by the water flowing through the man-made gap, which could eventually lead to the type of failure that everyone was trying to avoid. This proposed system of pipes would climb up over the rim and use gravity to keep the drainage flowing. One big advantage of this system is that outflow from the crater lake can be regulated and even stopped by means of a large valve at the end of the pipe. The government did not respond to his suggestion. Though it was feasible, it would take some time to build the components and then transport them to the top of Mount Pinatubo. As the lake had been increasing by about 1 metre per month, in this instance, time was the important factor. Shovels and muscle power were to be the dominant technology in solving the problem of Pinatubo's dangerous crater lake. Once across the lake, the team established a base camp close to the Marinot Notch, the lowest point in the crater's rim, where work would be focused. The work took on added urgency as the Philippine government had evacuated 9,000 people from villages directly below the Marinot Notch. The longer the work took, the longer would be the disruption to the lives of the people living in the evacuated village of Botolan. After weeks of difficult work, the team succeeded in deepening the notch by 5 metres and successfully reducing the lake's volume by a quarter. The Roman city of Pompeii was destroyed by the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 AD, killing around 20,000 people as it exploded, showering the city in ash and debris. The city lay buried for almost 1,700 years, when remains were discovered that included petrified bodies and household objects. Today, the remains of the ancient city have been excavated, and people can roam freely through the ruins. A detailed account of the city's destruction was recorded by Pliny the Younger, and the type of event he wrote about has been named a Plinian eruption. Pliny described a volcanic cloud in the shape of a stone pine, a shape we would call a mushroom cloud. Nighttime excursions are concentrated around the old Forum, the marketplace area, which was the focus for important political and religious functions. Plaster casts made from unearthed artefacts are on display. They replicate objects such as amphorae and even the body shapes of those trapped in the eruption. At the time of the eruption, Pompeii had around 20,000 inhabitants and was located in an area in which Romans had their holiday villas. It is the only ancient town of which the whole topographic structure is known precisely as it was, with no later modifications or additions. Its streets are straight and laid out in a grid. Another Roman town, this time in Egypt, was also destroyed by a volcanic eruption. In 1500 BC, the St. Turin volcano in the Mediterranean erupted, destroying several coastal cities in Egypt, Palestine, and present-day Saudi Arabia. This site in the northern Sinai is near the ancient Egyptian fortress of Taro, near Qantara East. Near the site of the excavated fortress, archaeologists have also been excavating the site of a 5th century Roman amphitheatre that is one of the largest ever discovered in Egypt. Detailed items like this scarab were in remarkably good condition. The amphitheatre, which was once supported by 30 columns, is currently in the process of being restored, and authorities intend to rebuild the wooden stage and seating area. The Taro fortress, where the lava field was discovered, was on the Horus military road that once connected Egypt to Palestine. It is mentioned in ancient papyrus documents that say the St. Turin eruption killed more than 35,000 people. Such volcanic sites provide a valuable view of the past, frozen as it was thousands of years ago. Residents from the small town of Santiago Jalatientla gather every year to honor Mexico's largest volcano with offerings of fruit, tequila, and firecrackers. Located just 12 kilometers from the volcano, Santiago Jalatientla is the closest town to Mount Popocatépetl. The residents live with daily reminders of the proximity, feeling tremors, exhalations and explosions. The farmers trudge through heavy volcanic ash and rough rock-filled terrain for 5 hours to reach a small cave located 1 kilometre from the Popocatépetl volcano, also known among Mexicans as El Popo or Don Goyo. Popocatépetl is one of the most active volcanoes in Mexico, having had more than 20 major eruptions since the arrival of the Spanish in 1519. The farmers express their respect and veneration for the strength of the volcano with the annual ceremony of homage. The farmers play indigenous music and carry offerings of food, drink and flowers to the small cave. They also present El Popo with gifts of a Mexican hat, a poncho and shoes. The ceremony continues with songs, firecrackers and prayers. In 1994, the volcano spewed gas and ash, which was carried as far as 25 kilometres away by prevailing wind. The activity prompted the evacuation of nearby towns, and scientists began monitoring for an eruption. 6 years later, tens of thousands of people were evacuated by the government based on the warnings of scientists. The volcano then made its largest display in thousands of years. But not all volcanic activity involves lava and hot gas. Japan's snow monkeys have known for ages the joys of a hot outdoor bath on a cold winter's day. The Japanese macaque survives winter temperatures below -15 degrees Celsius and is famous for the amount of time it spends relaxing in naturally heated volcanic hot springs in Nagano. And in Iceland, humans are doing the same thing. The Blue Lagoon is a state-of-the-art outdoor spa where visitors can enjoy a soak in warm waters throughout the year. The lagoon's average temperature is a comfortable 38 degrees Celsius. 1/4 of Iceland's power is generated by geothermal power stations. The only reason it is not 100% is that hydroelectricity is also very cheap. Iceland sits on a hotspot on the boundary between the American and Eurasian tectonic plates, and the frozen country has 130 volcanoes.